Welcome to Module 1 on Prompting Fundamentals. In this module, you'll learn how to build prompts that get the best results out of Claude every time. Most people write prompts like they're Googling something. You type a query, hit enter, and the search engine finds a page that matches. But that's not what's happening here. Google is matching your query against billions of existing pages. Claude is generating an answer from scratch. And the quality of that answer depends entirely on the instructions you gave it. This is the key shift in how you need to think about prompting. When you search Google, a vague query can work. You search coffee and you get coffee results. The search engine figures out what you probably meant. Claude doesn't do that. Claude reads your entire prompt as context before it writes a single word. Structure matters. Specificity matters. The order in which you present information matters. Let's start with a context window. Think of it as Claude's working memory for a conversation. Everything in a session is held simultaneously. Your prompt, any files you bring in, Claude's previous responses, any edits you make to earlier prompts. For Treasury work, this matters a lot. Your bank extracts can be long. Your policy documents can be dense. The more you understand what Claude is working with at once, the better you can structure what you give it. A typical context window is 200,000 tokens. Now, don't get caught up in the token math right now. Think of a token as roughly a word or a few characters or a syllable. The point is this: you have plenty of room. You can paste an entire month of bank data, your investment policy statement, your account structure document, and a detailed instruction set all at once. Claude will hold all of it simultaneously while it writes. That's different from how you might use a search engine, and it changes how you should structure your prompts. Why does structure matter? Disorganized prompt equals disorganized output. If you give Claude a wall of text with no clear direction, it will make its best guess at what you wanted. Usually, that guess is wrong for professional use. Here's a concrete example. Say you hand Claude a spreadsheet with bank balances for the F9 Finance coffee shop, and you ask, "Here's our bank data. What should I know?" Claude will generate something. It might summarize the highest balances. It might flag accounts that look low. It might calculate totals. But it won't know that the Astoria location has a $100,000 minimum on its operating account, or that you need a specific table format for your morning briefing to the CFO, or that you're more concerned about near threshold accounts than anything else. Claude made its best guess. It's not wrong, but that guess is probably not what you need. Now, take the same data and ask Claude. You were a Treasury analyst for F9 Finance. Astoria's operating account has a $100,000 minimum. Hell's Kitchen's is $150,000. Lower Manhattan's is $200,000. I need you to identify which accounts are below their minimums. Flag accounts within 20% of the minimums, and structure your output as a 3-line summary, followed by a table with location, account balance, and threshold status. The bank data is attached. Same data, completely different instruction. The second output will be review ready. It will have the right structure. It will flag the right exceptions. You won't need to edit it. This is why specificity matters so much in prompting. Vague prompts produce vague outputs. Summarize the bank data and identify accounts below the $100,000 operating minimum are not the same instruction. The second one is better, always. For professional work, precision in your prompt is precision in your output. Why does sequencing matter? What comes first in a prompt shapes how Claude reads everything that follows. Starting with role and context before presenting data is not just good practice. It changes the output entirely. If you start cold with data, just paste in a spreadsheet and ask a question, Claude is reading that data without any framing. It doesn't know what the columns mean. It doesn't know what thresholds apply. It doesn't know who's reading the output or why they're reading it. If you start with a role, you're a Treasury analyst, then context, here's our account structure and thresholds, then data, then task, Claude has the full picture before reading a single number. Now that context window is working in your favor. Here's the mindset shift you really need to make. When you're doing Treasury analysis, you're not having a conversation. You're issuing instructions. Not like military orders. like briefing a capable analyst and expecting a specific deliverable back. That changes how you write. So you're going to take this framework, the idea that Claude processes your entire prompt first, then generates output, and build it into a system. Now, that system is coming in the next lesson. For now, just internalize this. Structure, specificity, and sequencing all matter. They matter because Claude is generating your answer from the instructions you gave it, not finding an existing answer and returning it. With that, you're now thinking like someone who prompts well. There's a structure for writing prompts that consistently produce outputs you can use without editing. It has 5 parts. Once you know it, you'll use it for every prompt you write. The 5 parts are role, context, data, task, and format. We're going to walk through each one using the F9 Finance coffee shop as our example. By the end of this lesson, you'll see how these pieces fit together to build a prompt that actually works. Let's start with role. This is where you set Claude's perspective. It's not a trick, it genuinely changes how Claude frames its response. You are a Treasury analyst produces different calibration than starting cold with a question. The role statement tells Claude who it is and what its expertise is. For the coffee shop, a role statement might be, you are a Treasury analyst for F9 Finance Coffee Shop, a multi-location food and beverage business. Your job is to prepare daily cash position briefings for the CFO. Now that's not verbose, it's specific. Remember, you're not Googling. Claude now knows it's writing for a CFO at a multi-location company, and the output needs to be a briefing, not a report, not a casual summary, not a deck, a briefing. That distinction matters. Next comes context. This is everything Claude needs to know about the situation before seeing the data. Entity structure, what accounts exist, what the thresholds are, why this report matters, what policies apply. For the coffee shop, the context might read, F9 Finance Coffee Shop operates 3 locations, Astoria, Hell's Kitchen, and Lower Manhattan. Each location maintains 4 bank accounts, operating checking, merchant settlement, payroll, and reserve or savings. The minimum operating balance for Astoria is $100,000. For Hell's Kitchen, it's $150,000. For Lower Manhattan, it's $200,000. Any account below its minimum requires immediate escalation. Reserve balances are healthy when they fall within target ranges. Astoria 400 to 900, Hell's Kitchen 450 to 950, Lower Manhattan 600 to 1.2 million. Now that's a lot of information, but it's also necessary information. Without it, Claude can't do the analysis right. It doesn't know the critical thresholds. It doesn't know whether a $500,000 balance is good news or a problem. Context removes that guesswork. Now third comes data. This is the actual numbers, the bank extract, the transaction log, whatever raw material you're working with. Don't just paste it in cold, frame it first. Before the spreadsheet, tell Claude what it's looking at. Below is the end-of-day bank balance export for June 13th, 2023. All 3 locations are included. 2 sentences of context before the data changes everything about how Claude reads it. Then fourth, the task. Exactly what you want Claude to do. Be precise. Don't say analyze the data. Say identify any accounts below their operating minimum. Flag any single transaction over $10,000. Calculate the consolidated operating balance across all 3 locations. Highlight any accounts where the balance is within 20% of the minimum, even if they're not below it yet. That's the difference between a vague instruction and one that produces review-ready output. And lastly, format. This is exactly what the output should look like. Don't leave this to chance. Claude will invent a structure if you don't give it one. And the invented structure is usually wrong for professional use. A format instruction for the coffee shop briefing might be, structure your output as a 1-page briefing. Lead with a 3-line status summary, today's date, total consolidated cash position, and the number of accounts currently at or below threshold. Follow with a table showing each location, account type, current balance, minimum threshold, and status. Let's call the status OK, warning, or critical. Close with an exception section that lists each flagged item with a 1-sentence explanation of why it's flagged. When you specify format this precisely, Claude doesn't guess. It delivers exactly what you need. Now let's assemble these 5 parts into a complete prompt. Start the prompt with the role statement. Add context, frame the data, paste in the data, state the task, specify the format. Now, here's what that looks like with the F9 Finance Coffee Shop altogether. You are a Treasury analyst for F9 Finance Coffee Shop, a multi-location food and beverage business. You prepare daily cash position briefings for the CFO. F9 operates 3 locations: Astoria, Hell's Kitchen, and Lower Manhattan. Each maintains 4 bank accounts. Operating minimums are Astoria $100,000, Hell's Kitchen $150,000, Lower Manhattan $200,000. Identify accounts below their minimum. Flag accounts within 20% of minimum. Calculate consolidated operating balances across all locations. Structure output as a 3-line status summary with date, total position, exception count, a table with location account, balance, and minimums, status, and exception section. Structure output as, number 1, a 3-line status summary with date, total position, exception count. Number 2, a table with location, account, balance, minimum, and status. And 3, exception section with 1-sentence explanations. Using that prompt with Claude, the output will be structured, specific, and ready to send to your CFO. Now here's the professional move. Once you have a framework prompt that works, you don't rewrite it every single day. You don't rebuild it from scratch. You just update the data. That's it. You keep the prompt in a text file or in Claude projects, which you learn about in Module 2. I keep mine in Microsoft Teams. I keep mine in Microsoft OneNote. On day 2, you paste in new balances. You run the same prompt. Different data, same structure, same output format, same quality. This is how automation starts. Not with code, with a prompt that works so well you use it every day. Here's the test. Can your CFO read this document without asking you to explain it? That's the bar for review-ready output. Not pretty, not well written. Can someone who knows Treasury but doesn't know what Claude is read read this and make a decision based on it? If the answer is yes, it's review ready. If it's not, you have more work to do. The way to get there is to be intentional about 3 deliverable types. Each one has its own prompt design principles. The first is the daily liquidity summary. This is what you're building in this lesson. It needs multi-entity structure, threshold-aware logic, and a clean exception section. The output should have a defined structure the reader can scan in 90 seconds. Notice something important. The format instruction drives the structure. If you tell Claude, lead with a 3-line status summary, follow with a table, close with exceptions, the output will have that structure. If you don't tell Claude, the output will not have it. The second is a cash movement narrative. This is different from a summary. Here the goal is analyst tone, not chatbot tone. Claude defaults to a chatty summarization style. You need to explicitly instruct it to write like an analyst briefing. What does analyst tone sound like? Precise. Past tense, numbers cited exactly. No hedging. No, it appears that or it seems like. Direct statements. Here's an example. Chatbot tone. It looks like the Astoria operating account had some activity today. A merchant settlement came in that was fairly substantial, and then there were some payments out to various vendors. The account ended up in good shape relative to the minimum. That's 12 lines of vague narration. Analyst tone. The Astoria operating account received a $17,000 sweep from merchant settlement and dispersed $4,000 to New York Dairy Supply, leaving an ending balance of $185,000, which is $85,000 above the $100,000 minimum. That's one sentence. It's specific, it's past tense, it cites numbers. To get analyst tone, add this to your task instruction. Write in past tense analyst language, cite exact numbers, no hedging or conditional language. No appears to or seems to or it could be. Make direct statements. Claude will calibrate. The third deliverable type, let's say a month-end FX exposure summary. For the coffee shop, you might not have serious FX exposure, but imagine F9 opens in London or Tokyo. Suddenly you care about currency positions, month-over-month variances, and exposure commentary. The format discipline applies exactly the same way. Positions are listed, variances are noted. Commentary is 1 paragraph maximum. If you don't specify that, Claude will write you a 10-page narrative. Tell Claude, structure as a positions table with currency, notional exposure, prior month exposure, and variance. 1 paragraph commentary on material variances, and it will. So here's the rule. Always specify format. If you don't tell Claude what the output structure is, it invents one. Sometimes that's fine. For professional deliverables, it almost never is. Now let's talk about iterating in session. When the first output isn't right, you have two choices. You can rewrite the original prompt and start over, or you can write a targeted revision prompt. Rewriting takes time, targeted revisions are usually faster. Say you run your liquidity briefing prompt and the output comes back and the narrative section is just a little too chatty. It's got hedging language, it's got appears to and seems to. Instead of rebuilding the whole prompt, you rewrite the cash movement narrative section in past tense analyst language. Remove all conditional language and hedging. Cite exact numbers for all transactions. Keep everything else the same. Claude will rewrite that section. Same data, same structure, same quality baseline, just that one section fixed. You didn't rebuild, you iterated. This is faster than perfecting the prompt on the first try, and it trains you to understand which parts of a prompt drive which parts of the output. The format instruction drives structure. The task instruction drives specificity. The tone instruction drives voice. You're learning to control Claude's output with surgical precision. That's what professional prompting looks like.